muchos puntos. Okay, good morning. It is Thursday, April 13th. We have open session, and then we will go into close for public safety, and then reconvene right around 11 o'clock, give or take, to go into our work session downstairs for our budget. I honestly don't know the number now of work sessions, and then we will go as far as we can this afternoon for work session budget. Before we start, as always, let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Honestly, I can't remember if I started right to left or left to right, so let's start with right to left. Commissioner Garin, what's in your mind?
Thank you. Good morning, Carroll County. I'm going to use my time this morning for Priority Carroll to discuss the county's recognition of April 17th to the 21st. That's next week. Well, that's this week. Next week, as Work Zone Safety Awareness Month. I think this is a timely declaration given the horrific events on the Baltimore Beltway a few weeks ago, which directly touched Carroll County lives. If I'm not mistaken, it was a father and son, which is absolutely horrific. And just anecdotally, we all are out on the roads and we see how people are behaving or not behaving on the roads nowadays. It seems like it's much worse. So it's my honor to read this for all to hear for immediate release. Carroll County recognizes April 17th to 21st as Work Zone Safety Awareness Month. Carroll County government will recognize that week as National Work Zone Awareness Week. The county will have a variety of activities for the 2023 week-long commemoration to include a Work Zone Safety Training Day, a kickoff event, Go Orange Day, social media storm, and a moment of silence. National Work Zone Awareness Week is an annual spring campaign held at the start of construction season to encourage safe driving through highway work zones. The Carroll County Board of Commissioners will read a proclamation at a kickoff event at the Carroll County Maintenance Center on Meadow Branch Road at 10 o'clock on Tuesday, April 18th. Carroll County recognizes the contributions of those who work in roadway construction and maintenance, as well as traffic engineers, traffic operations personnel, law enforcement, emergency personnel, and others whose work environments include the open road, and honor those who have been injured or lost in the line of duty, and ask motorists to keep these workers in mind as you travel. Crashes can be prevented by ignoring distractions, staying alert, using extreme caution, reducing speed, obeying signage and flaggers, and giving a construction area your undivided attention when approaching and entering a work zone. Carroll County is dedicated to ensuring the safety of work zones and are committed to raising driver awareness with the aid of automated enforcement and other education and enforcement efforts to prevent crashes and injuries. Join us, the Carroll County Board of Commissioners, and the county in recognizing the importance of work zone safety every day. Thank you.
Absolutely. Any other additional?
No, thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Gordon?
Thank you. First and foremost, would like to thank BGE and all involved last night with restoring the power here to over 23,000 residents in the Westminster area that were out for roughly several hours. Kind of echoing a little bit on Commissioner Garin's comments about driving. Obviously, with the power outage last night, there were a wide array of outages on the roads, be it in town or also on 140. Everybody just take a little more time. I know we want to get places, but it was even more treacherous last night if you happen to be out on 140 or Main Street, which I at one point was on both. So if everybody could just take a minute, be a little aware of the people around you and your surroundings. I think that would be ideal for all involved, be it a power outage or just traffic in general. Secondly, on Saturday, April 8th, I attended the Westminster City Park annual Easter egg hunt that was held by Find Your Purpose and Billy Live. It was an incredible turnout for the Easter egg event. Roughly, I believe, 8,000 eggs were distributed throughout the park. And it was a wonderful time for all the children in the community that were involved. Also, there were a wide array of gift baskets and other organizations were set up, everybody from Planet Fitness to the Carroll County Public Foods Sunday group that was handing out food for the public in some parts of that. I also like to thank Westminster Police Department for being involved and in that event as well. It was a very, very nice turnout in the community, and it was nice to see a lot of happy, smiling kids last weekend. And I'd be remiss if I also didn't mention congratulations to Tony and Ashley Gerald of Collision Course Restaurant on Main Street. Their signage is now up front. That went up the other day, and I was fortunate enough to just happen to be on Main Street as it was being put up. They're looking roughly at a late spring, early summer opening, and currently they are also serving brunch on the weekends at River Downs Golf Course, and also a belated happy birthday publicly to Tony, which his birthday was yesterday. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Cool. Okay, Commissioner Kyler.
Had a great Easter weekend with family, and Passover's
One more day.
one more day. I was going to say
was
it's
last
not
day.
quite over,
Nope.
but yeah.
Passover's
So
not
happy
quite over.
Passover,
Okay.
and I missed last Thursday, and I feel bad about it, but I ended up getting tied up in here with some stuff, and I missed the drug treatment court graduation, and I'm sure it was good, and I'm sorry I missed it. I got a couple of texts from some other people there. Where are you? And I apologize, but I wanted to apologize to everybody. That was something important, and I just made it too tight, like I did walking in here 1 minute late. So you know. I'm consistent. Wednesday, Commissioner Rothstein and I met with the Secretary of the VA, Anthony Woods, in Annapolis. That was a great meeting. I don't know if we're going to be going to Annapolis anymore, but if something comes up that a meeting's worthwhile, we certainly will. But now that session's over, it won't be as important and it won't be as busy down there. But it's been very productive. I'm really glad we did it, and I'm sure you'll talk more about Secretary Woods, so I won't. And then Tuesday night, Commissioner Rothstein and I were out at the Ag Center, and we gave the County Commissioner's Plate, which
Right.
is an award they've established for an outstanding person there, and he and I got to give it to McKenna Steele, who's a junior at Westminster, and we were there probably an hour and a half, and it's just, and I try to say this every meeting, I mean, I love Carroll County. I was born here, so it's not that I came from someplace else and realized how great it was, but I knew how great it was. When you look around any event at the Ag Center, and you see the business people, the farm people, the families, and I kind of said before we gave the award, 4-H is mostly about kids, but you see families there, you see grandparents there, you see business owners there, you see farmers that don't have kids there. It's just a great event, and I was honored that they let us be part of it. And fortunately, you went ahead of me, so I did have 30 seconds knowing that I had to say something. I thought we were going to walk up and hand something,
Yeah,
but
it was a
but
surprise.
it's just so great to be part of it. It was such a great event. And then as the week ends, tomorrow is Tony Town's Business Breakfast, which is always great. And then there's stuff going on back here in the building that I'll need to be back here for at 9, so I might eat and run. But and then a few of us are probably involved tomorrow night with Battle of the Books at different schools, and again, that's a great event. And I don't know if all of you have been there before, but be prepared. They will bug you to stay till the very end and help with stuff and help with awards, and it's just another great event. And between the libraries and the school system, it's just more of why I love Carroll County. Thank you.
Oh, well said. Thank you. Commissioner Vigliotti.
Thank you, Commissioner Rothstein. I will be very brief. Commissioner Kyler already touched on the business breakfast tomorrow morning. So both of what I have to talk about today have to do with the Farm Museum. I was remiss, and I will apologize following Commissioner Kyler's establishment of protocol. Apologize for failing to mention last week that he and I had both attended the Farm Museum Volunteer Award Ceremony. We cannot do any of the things that we do without volunteers. We met and spoke with volunteers at the Farm Museum who put in hundreds of hours individually. There's one gentleman who had over 1,000 hours of volunteer time logged last year, and that is absolutely incredible. Also yesterday, I had the opportunity to attend the Farm Museum Advisory Board meeting. And two notable things to me, at least, is that they're ready for the animals to come back for the season. They will be getting some chickens in. Unlike the pig, these are live chickens, so they're not plastic chickens. Because everybody remembers I made the slight mistake that the pig was going to be real, but so the animals will be back, and then they are also in full force getting ready for events. Whether you're talking about weddings, they're increasing the number of camps that they're offering kids this year, and of course getting ready for the Veterans Ceremony on May 7th. And that is it from me for this morning. Thank you, Commissioner.
Oh,
Can I
great.
say one more thing
Please.
quick? And I apologize, and you always make me think. I'm going to get you to write for me, so I just read it. But I do want to compliment Gray and Sons for the paving around the building, and I'm sure everybody feels like I currently feel. It's pretty much a pain in the butt, but it's a great product when it's done, and they've been orchestrating us around pretty good.
Yeah.
And pretty well. I should also learn to talk right. Help me. Pretty well. And I just appreciate what they're doing, and I'll get yelled at, but with Gray and Sons, Miller, Laney, HTI, Kibler, White Pine, we are blessed in Carroll County too with some great contractors that do some great work. They fight over bids, which saves us money, but they're all pretty much good cooperative competitors, you know, and it's we're blessed with that too.
Absolutely. Call that frenemies. You know, they're all friends. They all know each other, and they're all working towards the bids. There's a few things. One, appreciate Commissioner Guerin talking about work zone safety, and I talked to our administrator, Ms. Wyndham, yesterday, and I said, okay, I'm on the road, and I'm talking. I said, how do you know when you're in Carroll County? And she paused. She goes, you're following a tractor. I said, absolutely. And this guy, he was very, very large. And it was on 26 and going east to west. You know, you had to slow down. I mean, you weren't going to, if you wanted to go around, you were going to do something illegal and dangerous. And people were not getting up to his bud. He was, you know, we kept distance, and you just breathe out a little bit and you drive. This is the time that large vehicles are on the road, and please, I'm doing the Commissioner Weaver safety. You got the Commissioner Wance, former safety with fire. You got the Commissioner Weaver with the farming, okay? And he would always say, large vehicles on the road, especially those that are green or orange, and just be prepared to slow down. And please slow down, especially going over some of these hills. And there was no issues. I had the opportunity to attend and participate in the Board of Education meeting last night. It was 2 hours. The power went out, so I think maybe that had something to do with it only being 2 hours, but they kept on going. And I was pretty impressed with those on the Board of Ed and those that participated, you know, from the community in talking on issues that were very relevant, dealing with blueprint and budget, dealing with mental illness, and recognizing and how do we put resources to mental illness, talking about bullying and racial bullying and the concerns. It exists. You can't put your head in the sand. It all exists, and we got to deal with it. And I applaud Superintendent McCabe and the entire Board of Education and CCPS for the work they're doing. As mentioned, went to the 4-H award ceremony, and I also shared at the Board of Ed, I said, gifted and talented aren't just coming out of the books and academia, because I saw a whole lot of gifted and talented at the 4-H award ceremony. I mean, these young men and women, very impressive with, the things they've done, the experiences that they've gathered over time, and they are going to make and continue to make Carroll County proud. Let's see.
Some of them will challenge Commissioner Vigliotti in their writing.
They could, yeah.
I really think so.
Drug treatment court, as mentioned, Commissioner Gordon and I attended. One of the most profound comments made, it wasn't this last one, but it was a few times ago, is when a gentleman stood up and they give their remarks. Drug treatment court is 13 months at a minimum, and it could be 2 years, 2+ years. It is not easy. And these men and women going through it have to go through continuous urinalysis and testing and get a job and get themselves on their feet. And it is not 100% pass rate. It is difficult. But this comment made a couple years ago was, I did some really bad things, wrong decisions, and thank goodness I got arrested in Carroll County. And I'm like, wow, and that was the truth. This gentleman was arrested and he was detained in Carroll County and allowed, through the goodness of the lawyers and judges engaged, that how do we make him a better citizen and lessen the recidivism of an individual like that. And drug treatment court that we say not in Carroll matters. So I applaud Judge Hecker and the entire team over there for the work that they're doing. Lastly, Secretary Woods, we did attend a meeting with Secretary Woods. It was 30 minutes of just continuing dialogue focused on the Veterans Home that is scheduled to be built on Slacks Road down in Sykesville. It is funded through the state and federal government. I know sometimes I sound like a broken record about it, but the key is it's moving in the right direction, and it's going to go through the Board of Public Works for funding for architecture engineer design. So that's a step in the right direction in the next couple months. We also talked about the services that the county and our community provides for our veterans. And it was just a very good discussion talking about the county and the region. Segue into on Monday between 9:30 and 10:30, the Lieutenant Governor, and I apologize, I cannot remember her last name, but the Lieutenant Governor and Secretary Woods will be here in Carroll County over at Post 31, 9:30, 10:30. And the purpose is threefold. One is an update for the Lieutenant Governor on the Veterans Home. Two, the continuing services, an update on what the county's focus is, and the Veterans Advisory Council, along with our citizen services, on what they are doing. And three, and most importantly, is the open discussion for our community to share with the governor, Lieutenant Governor, the continuing needs and ideas that we have. And I'm telling you, nobody does it better in Carroll County, so I know people shouldn't be shy in having those conversations. And I apologize, there is a fourth, and that fourth is the Lieutenant Governor sharing what the administration is doing for our veterans. And what they've done so far in a very short amount of time, and what their plans are moving forward. So it should be an hour, and that hour is going to go pretty darn fast. So 9:30, 10:30, it is open to all our veteran support or veteran service organizations across the county. So I look forward to that opportunity. Battle of Books, it's going to be awesome. It always is. So really applaud those kids, the teachers, the helpers, the parents, the administration. I mean, it's a lot of fun, and I'll be participating over at Century High School tomorrow evening. So I look forward to that, probably with my headset or earphones on because it gets awfully loud. Okay, Commissioner Vigliotti, do you have a proclamation you'd like to share?
I do, Commissioner Rossi, and I do indeed. Do we want to bring people up, or?
Sure. Why don't you all come up, and then proclamation could be shared, and we could hear the wisdom from the two of you. Nope, right up here. Go ahead.
Please. Please, yeah.
Good morning to both of you. Proclamation. April is Fair Housing Month. Whereas the Fair Housing Act, enacted on April 11th, 1968, enshrined into federal law the goal of eliminating racial segregation and ending housing discrimination in the United States. And whereas the Fair Housing Act prohibits discrimination in housing based on race, color, religion, sex, familial status, national origin, and disability, and commits recipients of federal funding to affirmatively further fair housing in their communities. And whereas Carroll County is committed to the mission and intent of Congress to provide fair and equal housing opportunities for all. And whereas our social fabric, the economy, health, and environment are strengthened in diverse, inclusive communities. And whereas, more than 50 years after the passage of the Fair Housing Act, discrimination persists and many communities remain segregated. And whereas, acts of housing discrimination and barriers to equal housing opportunity are repugnant to a common sense of decency and fairness. Now therefore we, the Board of Carroll County Commissioners, do hereby proclaim the month of April 2023 as Fair Housing Month in Carroll County as an inclusive community committed to fair housing and to promoting appropriate activities by private and public entities to provide and advocate for equal housing opportunities for all residents and prospective residents of Carroll County. Adopted this 13th day of April 2023, signed the entire Board of Carroll County Commissioners.
Okay. Any comments from us up front?
Thank you.
Yeah. Like to share some thoughts?
If I could. So good morning. We'd like to thank the Board of Carroll County Commissioners for this proclamation and observance of April as Fair Housing Month. Chartered on January 18, 1956, it is our mission at Carroll County Realtors to provide equal housing opportunities for all residents and prospective residents of Carroll County. We're committed to educating our members and the public about fair housing. Consumers and realtors depend on strong fair housing laws and practices for our communities and economy to thrive. We believe the American dream of homeownership should be available to all. Thank you again very much.
Thank you. A lot of work still needs to be done,
No doubt.
in our community, and we know that. Again, just like other things, not being a ostrich head in the sand. But working together, we'll get there. But it's always a challenge, and we talk about it a lot. It's getting, I don't know, seems to be harder and harder sometimes. So.
Yeah, so we understand completely, and it's something that we're focusing on right now is getting people involved in the discussion. So
Yeah.
it's got to start with talking about it, realizing our differences, our biases, et cetera, and moving on from there. So we're committed to that.
Yeah, very well said. Because we have our own opinions, and we're allowed to, and we should have opinions, but having the ability to listen and learn from the other sides of the aisles and the other sides of ideas will get us somewhere further than we are right now. So
Agreed.
I appreciate that. Any other thoughts? Why don't we get a
Can we
picture?
do a photo? And,
Yeah,
and-
Matt.
yeah.
He comes out. He knows. It's magic. I'd say the Magic Man, but I can't do that because he was a wrestler. Why don't you
Do
come
that
on?
in front?
Yeah, please.
Is it all right if I take this off?
Sure.
I'll get in the middle with them and hand it to them. Use the camera that takes weight off of me.
Doesn't exist.
Thank you.
Honesty is tough.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Did you want to speak
Yes, I would like to speak
for what topic?
on something that you did, and I question it.
Okay, so I just want to know, that'll be during open admin?
Whatever.
Okay.
I'll
Okay.
wait.
Yep.
I'm very patient.
Okay, thanks. I didn't know if it was a specific topic,
Have a good day.
agenda, or if it was open admin. So it sounds like it's.
I just
open admin.
questioned what you did with Together We Own It.
Okay, so that'll be open admin. Okay, thank you. Okay, Mr. Fowler. Yeah, I apologize, sir. There's orange cards or salmon cards in the back. If you can fill out the card and then provide it to Mr. Burke, that'd be great.
How are you today?
Good morning.
Good morning.
The Lieutenant Governor is Aruna Miller.
That's it. Thank you. And I apologize to our Lieutenant Governor, Miller. Thank you.
It's funny you talked about farming equipment. It reminds me, years ago, I was dealing with a Carroll County farmer on a land issue, and I said, well, you're in a farming community. I imagine people are pretty patient when you're taking your equipment down the road. And he said, well, more often than not, they go around me, blow their horn, and tell me I'm number one. So maybe they're not as patient as we thought. So I guess the question overall is, was the session a success? And that always depends on how you rate success. I think if you look at it did we have unfunded mandates? Did they try to impact our autonomy? That's overall probably successful. Some of the bills that we were concerned about did not move forward. So I think overall, I call it a success. And again, I apologize last week for the issues, for the miscommunication about the grants. So I've been able to compile those. So the Board of Education has gotten two $75,000 grants, one each for Westminster Elementary and Carrolltown Elementary for their playground improvements. You are getting a grant, the board is getting a grant for $225,000 for playground improvements in several Carroll public schools.
Let me just quickly stop you on that because there was some discussion. When that was being discussed originally, the intent is that $225,000 goes directly to the Board of Education, not to the commissioners, then to. So, and I believe that had been agreed with the Board of Ed. So,
So now it is coming to you as the board. That's the way the grant is
It is.
shown in
Okay.
the budget.
so
Yes.
okay.
So then you will have to dispense it to them.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
You're also getting a grant of $1 million to be directed to the sheriff's building. And you did get $500,000 for the Hampstead Volunteer Fire Department. And then on the private side, the Arc of Carroll County gets $100,000, and the Nate's Place Destination Program gets $75,000. So I talked with Senator Reedy, and obviously we've got next year to look forward to. So
Is it possible, Hampstead's getting, I mean, again, I don't want to sound like I don't appreciate 500,000, but that's not what the plan was. So is it possible to maybe get that much more next year, or who knows?
it is possible. It depends on, I think, how much the General Assembly wants to set aside for local grant initiatives. Yeah. And I guess what else comes up in the interim
Yes.
that goes to the delegation. So I've kind of split it up. I'll talk about the bills that actually did pass and were enacted. A number of these we've talked about, and some of them have changed a little bit. Obviously, the facilities bond, the most important one, I think, for us. And of course, the big bill was the cannabis bill. Most of that bill really goes to how the program is put together, the direction of concerns about communities that were impacted by the war on drugs. So it's setting up the program. The thing that we were concerned about, obviously, was any tax revenue. So as it stands, the state will have a 9% tax. The counties will get 5% of the 9% that is collected within the county. And for a location in a municipality, it will be 5%, and it will be a 50-50 split between the municipality and the county for that. And then the zoning language still remains intact, so we still have those concerns about what is a reasonable, what's reasonable and what is unduly burdened. So we'll see that play out.
And just as a side note, I think this is something that we need to look into very soon, including prohibiting on-site consumption.
That's in the bill, so that is prohibited, yes.
Or no, the county may prohibit, so we have
Yes,
the ability.
yes,
okay,
the
all right.
local government may prohibit on-site consumption. Yeah, there's a limited number of licenses issued statewide for on-site, but you do have the ability to prohibit it, yes.
And in my humble opinion, I think that is something that we should look into.
Yes, absolutely.
Sorry, Mike, I apologize.
No, that's good. Yeah, and so as far as the licenses go, there's the existing medical will be able to convert their licenses. A lot of conditions on these, as you might imagine, how licenses are going to be distributed, but I think some clear guidance will be disseminated, in the coming weeks and months. It takes effect July 1st, so it's going to be a quick turnaround.
Apologize, Mike.
I'm sorry, Mike, didn't mean to interrupt you there. Quick question, can you give us any clarification on what they're concerning or noting as reasonable zoning classifications as to the reasonable?
That's it.
Okay,
They need to be reasonable.
that's kind of what I was wondering, but okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I think that the zoning, the way zoning affects the medical sites, my guess is if you follow that same pattern, you're going to be fine.
Okay.
I think in the bill, there are, for example, limitations on how close to an existing school, existing daycare, those kinds of things. The next several are the governor's proposals, and they did pass mostly successfully. His service program, they're basically going to convert what is now the Maryland Corps into this new service option, and will provide a stipend to the participants. It does focus primarily on disadvantaged youth and targets these areas of climate education and health, so there will be some opportunities there. And the Family Prosperity Act, which expands the Earned Income Tax Credit and the Child Tax Credit, his exemption for military retirement income, so for those under 55, it increases the exemption from $5,000 to $12,500, and then for those 55 and over, it goes from 15 to 20. So that was. I think he originally proposed
25.
yeah, higher than what it,
Yeah, I
Ended.
believe it was 25 and then 42 at the end of the day. Like, that was the target was 42, but I think he was going after
it went in.
25,000.
Yeah, so.
But I do have a question going back, and there's probably not a further definition on disadvantaged youth, is there? I mean, because I hear disadvantaged youth, a few things come into mind. One is poverty. Another one is, mentally disadvantaged, educationally disadvantaged. Is this a targeted group?
Yeah, I can give you the precise language in the bill, but
Okay.
it's primarily going to be low income,
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
right, those, and they can't be specifically racial, but there will be minority preferences in there.
Okay.
The constant yield bill, we talked about that one, that did go through. A bill, the Housing Community Development Adaptive Reuse. You had some housing folks in here, which is a good segue. This would allow housing loans to be used to repurpose buildings to multifamily affordable housing. That was one of the priorities from the housing folks this year. The next bill, the Accessory Dwelling Unit Policy Task Force. So that's been a goal in the recent past. There was a bill last year that did not go forward, but there is an idea trying to move forward of increasing density, and you do that by allowing accessory dwelling units in residential areas. The bill last year was very strong in that it would eliminate things like setbacks. So building an addition onto a house that would go up to the property line, for example, those kinds of things. So they still haven't been able to work through that. So they've created a study on this. So I think we'll see something come back on accessory dwelling units in the next session. Broadband. So there's going to be a study of broadband incentives, how to better incentivize the providers, because that's one of the big challenges. This is done by private businesses. How to maximize federal grants. Look at what other states are doing. The report will be January 1st of 24, so hopefully that'll lead to some good ideas coming in the next session. A bill that our folks in aging were concerned about in its original form, the long-term care and dementia care navigation programs. So each area agency has to develop a program on dementia care. It will include programs, screenings, referrals, caregiver support, et cetera. The implementation, though, is subject to funding. So there is a $2.4 million annual funding statewide for this. So I think this relieves some of the concerns that they may have to put a program forward and you would have to look for additional funds to fund it. Private Well Safety Act originally came in where you would play a part in this. That is not the case. It's been amended. Now it deals with testing and forwarding testing results to a database maintained by the state. Sediment control plans, discharge permits. So the stormwater management regulations are to be updated by the end of 2025, and then they will be updated every 5 years after that. Any changes are going to be reviewed by a significant stakeholder group that does include MACO, so there will be local government representation on that. On-site wastewater services board. So I think we talked about this one earlier too. This would limit inspectors to have a property transfer license only for inspecting property transfers. So there was some thought that they would have to inspect, just have an inspection regime, but now it's inspecting for property transfers only. It establishes a new fund for the fees, and it moves those penalties from the Bay Restoration Fund to this newly created Clean Water Fund. A bill that we did not talk about is the pollinator-friendly vegetation management on utility rights-of-way. So utilities now are starting to move away where they can from maintaining their transmission line rights-of-way, which are the large tower lines, from a mowing regime to try to create a more natural environment. And they do this through a judicious use of herbicides to knock down tall, woody growing vegetation and to allow native plants to flourish. One of the problems the utilities have run into is some pushback from local governments on that. What this does is allows the utility to do that. You cannot prevent them from doing that. There are certain conditions where they cannot do this. And I was actually involved on a pilot here in Columbia in a previous life to do this, and it's a really fascinating and good way to manage these rights of way.
Not done through large brush fires
Correct.
in Baltimore County. I drove through that area yesterday or 2 days ago. It's amazing. That fire, what was it called?
Soldier's Delight.
Soldier's Delight.
Yeah.
Yes, there is a
Massive.
transmission line
Yeah,
through there,
it goes right
and
through it.
BGE, I
Yeah.
think over time, worked with the Forest Service to do control burns
Right.
in that area for
Right.
that reason.
That whole
So I don't know
area-
if that's continued or stopped or what.
Yeah.
But usually when there's a lot of fuel,
Yeah.
that's the problem. They had another one yesterday too on the east side of town,
Oh, did
a
they?
brush fire.
Okay.
Yeah. Our Class 4 winery license, so that got amended down. It allows for the preparation and sale of the listed foods as they currently exist. It does not limit it to prepackaged those, so they can prepare that list of foods. It now very simply makes the hours of operation from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. And the requirement for notifying advance notices is out. So no requirement on gross receipts or getting a Class B beer and wine license.
Now, will Carroll County still require a special events permit? This doesn't stop us from doing that, does it?
I wouldn't think so. That's when your event is over 500 people and you get a permit through zoning and the health department to make sure that they're, proper
Yeah.
sanitation and things. So I haven't looked at this
I
for
don't
that
think it's
purpose, but
different.
I would hope that
Yeah.
wouldn't ameliorate that.
No, there's nothing in there about procuring
Yeah.
any local permits.
Does that work?
Yes, it's helpful, yeah.
Yeah.
It also works, it gives us a heads up if they need to work with the sheriff's office or our emergency management on traffic control and other kinds of,
Yes.
if events get large enough, that can be it could be a safety problem.
And Mike, thank you so much for keeping up with this and keeping us informed about this through the course of the session. I appreciate that. I mean, I know there are some things that we'll look at based on this, and very much appreciate you keeping us informed about it.
I think you'll see that these things go through a lot of twists and turns over the 90 days. The Forest Conservation Bill did passed on the last day. The concern again is the loss of canopy and forest cover. This will be addressed by this bill, and our folks were heavily involved in the discussions around it and the amendments, and they feel comfortable with it as it stands. I mentioned to you that there was some last-minute work to try to preserve the local government's ability to review permits for a solar facility that has a CPCN. Again, the issue of the presumption that the state has when the Public Service Commission issues a certificate of public convenience and necessity. The language was inserted that local governments should approve or deny, where it said previously should process. And I mentioned to you that there was another county in the Eastern Shore that sat on the permit and didn't allow it to move forward. The bill, as it was written, would simply make you give it a rubber stamp, as it were. This now allows you to approve or deny. So that was a good thing. Happened late. The next two, I want to reserve the right to follow up on these because they're still a little tricky. They were amended. One was amended in conference committee, so I'm still a little unclear on how they, I guess, affect each other. The first one, Public Utility Certificate of Public Convenience and Necessity and Meter Aggregation, that was the one that was directed to the Howard County situation where they had adjoining parcels and 2 megawatt installations on each one. That was going to, this will sort of define or define out of a generating station definition a 2 megawatt community solar, so that they stay 2 megawatts or less, they're separately metered, they're individual installations, and there is a limit on adjoining properties, on the same or adjoining properties. But the upward limit is what's got me a little stumped, because the second bill, with the addition of property taxes, and I'll get to that in a second, but that one lifts the megawatt limit at some
At 5.
point. Well, then it goes, under certain conditions, there's no megawatt limit if it serves a prescribed percentage of low-income subscribers or is used for agrivoltaics. And then by 10.124, it removes all the generating capacity limits, and it's subject only to the net metering capacity of the utility. At the last minute, they made some changes on property taxes, and that's really what I'm most concerned about. I don't want to make a definitive statement on that because I think there's some questions about how these are taxed currently and how they'll be taxed going forward. So I'm going to reserve completion on that one, and I'll follow up with my folks at MACO and get some certainty on these two and how they relate to each other. Task force to study solar incentives. So we're going to study the impacts of all the grants, the tax credit and exemptions and property assessments, the impact of federal incentives and the valuing of these renewable energy credits. And then this task force will include 3 MACO representatives, so urban, suburban, and rural, and then have their recommendations later this year for the next session. And this last bill here in packaging materials. So this is another bill that was introduced. There's a movement in a number of states to try to get producers to reduce their packaging, to reduce the impact in the waste stream. This bill now creates this Producer Responsibility Advisory Council. They're going to recommend to the General Assembly about the creation of this Producer Responsibility Program with the intent of reducing that impact to the waste stream. Library funding, there was a problem in the last bill that was, I think it was last session, that would fund the libraries, increase the funding in the libraries up through fiscal year 27. Unfortunately, that's where it ended. Had they not made this change, funding would have zeroed out. So they made it to continue indefinitely at the 2027 levels. Big whew for the libraries. Elections, the Election Reform Act, this directs how precincts can be added or removed. You'll remember this one in its original form would have required Carroll County to return to its pre-pandemic number of polling sites, which was higher. I think it would have had somewhere between 8 and 10 additional polling sites. That's been amended out, so that does not necessarily increase, and this will affect the 2024 election. The minimum compensation bill did pass. That requires new election judges to be paid $250 a day and adds a $100 bonus for those returning judges, and it provides $50 for the education of the judges. Senate Bill 379 and House Bill...
Apologize. One second. What are we paying them right now? Do we know? The judges? I know we've been having a conversation.
Do you remember I don't remember what the base amount was. Well, we can find out.
Does increase it above, I think, what we were looking at the other day, well above that, or at least above that number.
250? No, I don't think so.
I
I'm just-
think it's 100 now.
Is it 100?
Yeah, and that's okay. I know it's not a conversation right this second, but I know we were looking at raising.
Right. That was a request by Katie Berry and the
Right.
Board of Elections because I think they saw this handwriting on the wall. And
So-
I believe their request was to go to 250, but I don't remember what the
Yeah,
base
if it
amount
was, that's fine, and we can look, but if it wasn't, let's just, may need to make that adjustment when we have the conversation later. Okay, thanks.
So is this funded by the state, or
No.
this is requiring us to
No.
pay it, correct?
Yeah,
Very nice of them.
Local Board of Elections.
and you said that with a straight face.
Yes.
Well, I think it's important for people
I
to
made it
know
a
who are
question.
watching and listening.
Yes.
That we pay for all this, the county, not the state.
Yeah, it's the intent is an incentive to get election judges. There's
Sure.
a challenge of getting people to do that.
And, no, because I 100% agree with Commissioner Guerin, is there are activities that are directed through legislation that we have to fund from the county. And we don't have opportunity to say no. We try to sometimes through MACO and other ways, but once the legislation put in place like this, we will fund legislative judges or election judges to $250 per day. Full stop. And that's, so yes, it should not get unnoticed. So I agree.
Yeah, and it's
we,
not-
we joke sometimes, but you're absolutely right.
And their work isn't just limited to one election day. There's the primary,
Correct.
and then election day, and then, of course, there's early voting for both. So it's a significant number of days.
It's a lot of work.
And it's a lot of work on
Don't
them.
get many breaks. I know anecdotally at Mount Airy Middle last November, they didn't get any breaks in there. It was just nonstop.
And it's a long day, too.
Long day.
And we didn't have the numbers, so we pulled folks out of the county through volunteering, to get there. But, okay. Thanks.
The next election bill does a couple of things. One, it will allow the election board to begin to count absentee ballots before the polls open. And, of course, they can't release any totals before the polls close. But, one of the challenges, particularly in jurisdictions that get a lot of absentee ballots, is if they can't start counting those until the polls close, the results are delayed, and that's problematic. So they're able to get a head start. And this is also the bill that moves the primary up in '24 to May 14th. On the public safety side, Senate Bill 330 was the body-worn camera bill that directs the state to negotiate the contracts for the purchase of the equipment where the local jurisdictions can piggyback on that contract. It can include the viewing, editing, and redacting of footage as well. The State Disaster Recovery Fund, that was a bill we talked about that would allow some funding to be released by the state where FEMA did not declare a disaster, and would allow the release of those funds to happen expeditiously. It did pass. It transfers the funds from what is the catastrophic event fund, which was the problem because there were a lot of hurdles in releasing money out of that fund, and it was also dependent on the FEMA declaration. So it will now make funds available to local governments in a timely manner. And then the Commission to Advance and Strengthen Firefighting and EMS within Maryland. That's comprised of the fire and EMS stakeholders. They'll review incentives and practices in other states and then report back to the General Assembly in advance of the next session. Our Northeast Maryland Waste Disposal Authority bill did pass. Now, interestingly, it does allow for the authority to continue in its current state. So this is all dependent on the analysis that the Department of Legislative Services does. So if this analysis uncovers that the authority does some things that are not able to be done by MES or are done better, perhaps it will remain. I think the good thing out of this was we were able to get the amendments that allows the functions and the personnel and the active contracts from the authority to be supported by MES in this interim period. But I thought that was interesting that there is a possibility that they can continue. Electrical vehicle charging. So while some people might bristle at this actually kind of makes sense, that it's going to require new single-family construction to be EV ready, which means it will have, so this will be a single-family detached home that has a garage, or a townhome that has a garage, will have a circuit run to enable the charging of an EV. The reason for this is because obviously the state's policy is to move toward total EVs. By 2037 or 35 or 37, all new cars sold in the state need to be EVs. So doing this now, running additional circuit now, as opposed to retrofitting, makes sense. If you're talking about a couple $100 now in a new house versus maybe 4 times that to retrofit, it makes sense. So that bill did move forward. The Baltimore Regional Water Governance Task Force, of course, is comprised of Baltimore City and Baltimore County primarily, but because Anne Arundel, Carroll, Howard, and Hartford do draw water from the city, they're going to be included. One member will be included to represent these 4 counties to look at all aspects of that system. And the city had, as you know, a lot of problems with billing over the years, so they've decided to finally take a big look at this. And then, of course, didn't help to have the problems at the water treatment plant over in Baltimore County.
So it'll be,
oh, go ahead.
it'll be one representative for the 4 counties.
Correct.
How are they going to determine the representative for the 4 counties? Is there any insight to that?
I think those 4 counties on the Baltimore Metropolitan Council.
They are.
They are. My guess is that they'll probably go to the BMC to choose.
Well, we
them.
have a meeting next Friday, so it can be brought up as new business then.
Yeah, I'll when I go back, I'll check the bill and see if it does that.
Because, I mean, it's not that I don't like Anne Arundel, Howard, and Hartford. I want to know what's in the best interest of Carroll, and, you know.
And we're also in a very different position from
Correct.
the other counties, and because we don't get treated water from them.
Right.
All the other counties get treated water from the city of Baltimore and the 3
Oh,
reservoirs.
really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I think it was really hopeful that we would each have a representative, or at least 2 representatives from the 4 organizations. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, if we can get more fidelity on this, I think be in our best interest. And I appreciate that comment. I didn't realize that because we do have the treatment facility right there in Freedom, and we are a large stakeholder, and probably the way Ms. Wyndham just shared, a larger stakeholder. So want to make sure that we have the appropriate, say in this. So, yeah, if you can follow up, and then Ms. Wyndham and I will go to the BMC on Friday.
Yeah,
Next Friday.
If it is them that's going to
Yeah,
have something.
yeah. If it is them that's going to choose. So, okay.
Well, if there's an opportunity to bring it up, you can certainly do that.
Yep. Okay. Thanks.
And then I've broken out the bills that did not move forward. And most of these we've discussed at some point. House Bill 119, obviously, we didn't expect that to go through, and it did not. The bill that would fund the coordinators, the blueprint coordinators, did not move forward.
Wasn't that Senate Bill 119?
No. There was a Senate version, but House Bill 119 is the one that passed in the House
Right.
and went over to the Senate for
Oh, I see.
consideration.
And that got shot
They did
down.
not move either of them.
Okay, I apologize. Thank you.
Yeah, so the blueprint funding bill did not move. The bill that would change the burden of proof on due process for children with disabilities that have the independent learning program did not move forward. The collective bargaining for public libraries failed. I suspect that will be back next year. The big thing we'll have to make sure on that is that you maintain the ability to send that back if you can't fund the agreement that the library and the union agree to. The school bus stop bill that we were concerned about, the cameras, that did not move. Unfortunately, Senate Bill 40 was the bill that would limit requests for body camera footage, put conditions around what could be released. That did not pass. I suspect Senator Sidner will bring that to bear again next year. The Police Retention Work Group, that was a proposal by Senator West and Delegate Tomlinson, did not move forward. The Voluntary 911 Registry, that's where people could volunteer to put themselves on a registry where 911 would know in advance if there was a situation, that particular location. You had, for example, an autistic child, someone with some issues there, that would alert first responders to a particular set of conditions at that location. There were some concerns that our 911 folks had about that, mostly about how the information would be compiled and how it would be kept up, because the bill would make it the responsibility of the individual to report back to the county of any changes or additions there. So things can change so quickly, and you may be sending out first responders with a set of expectations that didn't exist.
So like family members with dementia,
Exactly.
and they pass on, and
And then it doesn't get updated.
resource goes out there, and there's nobody there. So, okay.
Right. So
Yeah.
they'll continue to work on that over the interim, I'm sure. The Maryland Paint Stewardship, that's been at least last session, maybe 2 sessions. That's a program that would put a small fee at the retail level, and then there would be a recycling program where people would take their old paint back to the retail location. That would take some pressure off of your local government collection sites to take that paint back. That got tied up at the end about the fee, and so that failed for the second time. And then the task force on recycling policy, we've seen that over the last couple of sessions as well, that did not move forward. So again, overall, I think from where we started to where we ended, I think we were fairly successful. a lot of red flags went up in the beginning that didn't pan out.
Yeah.
But then we got a couple of little gifts there toward the end. But overall, I think we came out pretty well. As you see, a lot of this is going to carry over to the next session, so we'll be revisiting many of these same things again next year.
Any, thanks, Mike. Any questions, comments?
Now, just to say thank you, seriously, from the bottom of my heart, for keeping us updated about everything and for coming back to report to us every week about it.
Well, I have to say that I consider myself basically a pass-through because all of these details come from your staff. You know, these are the subject matter experts. It's like you say, you don't have to know the answers, you just have to know where to go to get them. And I know where to go to get them because you got some really sharp people that are involved at the state level, so they're fully engaged on a lot of these policies, proposals. So I just want to take this opportunity to thank them for helping me get through this, because if they weren't there, it wouldn't happen.
And did you go to Mr. Burke for tie fashion? I'm just asking, so, you know.
I'm very happy to see two gentlemen that are as comfortable with their feminine side as I am. Like the pink.
Yeah, but Mr. Burke turns red. That's the
Oh,
challenge.
his is red? Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's pink until you get above the collar. Then there's a whole lot of shades of red, but okay.
And I'm sorry, I do have a
Please.
question. I flipped each of you an email, and I don't know what it means for us.
The quantum.
Telecommunications, the Brown family, got 4 grants worth probably $16 million to serve about 1,700 businesses or homes in Carroll County. But the cost of the total projects is more like $22 million. So where does that other $6 million come from?
You.
That's what I thought.
Simply, the board. So that's all part of the Maryland Broadband Initiative.
Yes.
And so the last board, and when we get a little through budget, we're going to come to you with an update on where we are with FRF spending. But the last board put a large chunk of the money we got from the federal government toward broadband. And so these projects were presented to the board, as well as some others from other providers, with the understanding that if they were awarded by the state, then we would have that money as match money.
I believe we
If
put...
any other Carroll
yeah.
County providers got grants.
Not in this round.
Okay.
So
it's the 4 to
Verizon
quantum.
and Comcast also put in applications, and they were not awarded grants through the Maryland Broadband.
They were competitive.
I was,
Yeah, I mean, they were competitive to go
Oh, yeah.
after them.
Yeah.
The FRF, from what I remember, I think it was like 18.1 million that we put.
it was 16. This is in that ballpark,
Yeah,
16
so
million.
to put towards broadband. So yeah, this is good stuff. These are
Yeah, oh, I know, I
So-
know. But I just wondered
Yeah.
how well it was planned for, and
Yeah.
if this was a surprise or
Nope.
expected. So that's great.
and using other
then
people's
one last
money.
question, notwithstanding the pink, how many years are left in your 10-year contract?
It's a year to year.
We have golden handcuffs we give to all employees. They can't leave.
No, thank you very much. And thanks, between some of his connections and you getting us around and your connections down there, I think it was, for us, it was about as productive as it could be.
yeah.
And I've said this before, and you know that, but it's so reassuring to see a lot of people wanted our input. You know, and that's
question.
great. And of course, the Mako network's awesome too. So
Yeah,
thank
no,
you.
I agree. Any other comments?
One quick question, actually. So I know you had reported on the Board of Elections issues. Did there was the topic a couple months ago about cleaning up some of the polling places in Carroll? How did that play out?
That did not go forward.
Okay. So we're still dealing with some minimal people at singular polling places that theoretically their identities can be figured out if need be. So that's unfortunate. So,
Yeah, well, you still have one session left to make that happen.
okay.
And I'm not sure, I haven't talked to Katie Berry about why that was problematic, if at all. It could have been just a casualty of time.
Gotcha.
I don't remember hearing anything specific, but
It was an unusual bill because of the way it was written. It was all numbers. And I think even the people in DLS were a little confused by what exactly we were asking for. So it doesn't surprise me, maybe the committee wasn't quite sure either.
Gotcha. I appreciate it. Thanks, Mike.
Commissioner Garrett?
Nothing, thank you, though.
A couple of bills that did go through that we are not so much in favor of, I believe, holistically. You know, some individuals may be, but minimum wage went through, which is going to affect private businesses and restaurants and others. And we're talking through it with the budget, you know, with the library, you know. So that's significant.
Right. Fortunately, we got the indexing out of there,
Right.
right? So there's not automatic increases, but the acceleration is problematic
Correct.
for people's budgeting.
So,
And
yeah,
it's
please.
sooner, so
Yeah.
get used to self-checkout because you can't blame businesses.
So that is, you know, a concern for our community that that's in place. And then the other is SB 1 and the concealed carry has not gone through. Well, actually, it did. SB 1 went through to limit the concealed carry. And I know there's been a lot of discussion on that. Again, whether individually we agree or disagree with it, community-wide, you know, there is concern of that. And I know our delegation was not for it, you know, and I respect our delegation and I appreciate, like going back to Commissioner Kyler, the opportunity to have these open conversations with our delegation and our delegation keeping us apprised of these votes and the due diligence that they are doing, regardless of individual, you know. But that was significant of a bill that did get through. So we'll see where it goes on its limitations and its enactment of SB 1. But that, I know,
There will be legal challenges.
correct.
There's no question about it. Yes, I haven't in the past, and it'll be my hope, is to sort of avoid some of those hot button issues that don't directly impact the county. Abortion was another huge issue
Right.
in the legislature. Guns every year is a big issue in the legislature. We typically don't discuss those. We lean on the delegation to carry those forward in the General Assembly.
I think, yeah, and I appreciate that, and I think it's a smart way to go, but there are bills and activity that we may not have direct engagement because, you know, let's face it, it's a supermajority and we are in a very strong minority, you know, for legislation. But there are activities happening through legislation that affect our community. We may not, again, have the ability to adjust it or change it. We may have opinions on it, but, you know, going through COVID-19, I mean, taught us those lessons that, you know, when the governor did things or legislation, those are the laws regardless of our opinions, but they affected our community. These are activities that are affecting our community regardless of our, you know, involvement, but just be aware for these type of conversations. You know.
And some are two-edged. Some of the ones you talked about, like some of the veterans bills, are very positive for veterans that
Sure.
live in Carroll County, but it's going to cost us revenue.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, so it's two-edged.
Absolutely. And that's why, overall with MACO, we don't like these type of bills because we don't want to force local governments to take money out of our own coffers without our own say. And that's goes right back to where Commissioner Guerin was talking about the election judges. We are directed to take money out of our own coffers to do this. The veterans tax relief, which I appreciate, but as an individual, but collectively, it's directing us to take money out of our own coffers. So, okay. Any other comments or questions? I really appreciate the work that you do, and like Commissioner Kyler said, navigating us through Annapolis, getting us to where we need to be, taking every opportunity while we were down there to meet up with our legislators and other legislators and secretaries. So just thank you so much. Okay.
And now that you know your way around there, maybe we can get a little bit more aggressive and maybe step out and visit some delegates outside of our delegation and
Yep.
let them know who
Yeah.
we are and
Yeah.
what we think.
And we did to a little, but you're right.
Yeah.
So no, I agree. Okay. Thank you so
Good.
much.
All right. Thank you very much for your support. I appreciate it. And
Question,
Forward to it.
Celine. The entire group that's in front of us, are they all with you collectively, except for the gentleman here?
Several different groups here.
But I mean, they're under your umbrella.
No.
Like, there's no individual wanting to speak. Okay, there's a reason for my
Oh,
madness.
okay.
Chris, is there anybody on the phone?
No, sir.
Okay, gentlemen, if it's okay with you to get out a little of order, the gentleman in front of us wants to have public comment. It can be a long meeting, and instead of waiting till the very end, if it's okay with you, we can do open comment now.
Absolutely.
Sure, absolutely.
So, sir, why don't you come on up? Again, you feel free to stay as long as you want afterwards, but they become long. So,
This is Mr. Morningstar.
Alive and in person.
okay, sir, you have 3 minutes to share with us what's on your mind. It's not a give and take; it's more of a give, and we'll take it in and then go from there. Okay.
Well, I had a question.
Okay.
I volunteered with Together We Own It. And apparently, you pulled the funding from that because it was for convenience. And it's completely destroyed that program. And I just thought I'd like a better explanation than for convenience. It might be convenient to disband the Carroll County Public School System or the police department or whatever. I don't think that's a very good reason, and I'd like to have more reason for it.
And this venue isn't question and answer, but can somebody get contact information so the proper people can get him his answer?
That's
Yeah.
one of the main reasons we have the comment.
Yeah, I
cards.
know.
Yeah.
I know.
Will do.
And that's what we'll do to get into a better dialogue or discussion with you. We'll reach out to you with the appropriate staff to give you the best candid thoughts we can at this time, just not from the dais.
Yes,
Okay.
I was a little concerned because I think it sets us up for these people to come out and sue us. One of my most important things, the top of my list that I have, is my reputation. And you've basically destroyed the reputation of that group and of the individual that was in charge of it. And I would come after you legally. I don't know what they'll do, but that would be my recommendation to them. Thank you for your time,
Absolutely.
and I
Yes,
hope
sir.
you get in touch with me.
Yes, sir, we will.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to the items. Item number 2, approval to submit application and accept the award for FY24 SNAP. which is the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program.
Good morning, everybody.
Is County match. Before we get started, just Celine, I got a word I don't typically use, lovely note from Gabby.
Okay.
She has incredible handwriting, by the way. And it just was very nice. So if you do run across her, pass my regards that it was received. And I'm bummed because she did give me a pin from her lanyard, and I thought about this morning, and I honestly just forgot to put it on. But
I will let her know.
yes, very, very much appreciated. Okay.
All right.
So thank you. Okay. Well, so what's on your mind?
So I'm Celine Steckel, the Director of Citizen Services with Carroll County. I have Debbie Standiford with me, our grants office manager. And then we also have with us today Karen Bernard. She is the Family Investment Assistant Director for Carroll County's Department of Social Services. Today we are before you requesting approval to submit application and accept the award for the FY24 Summer Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program and authorize the required county match. The Maryland Department of Human Services Family Investment Administration administers the Summer Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. This was established to address food insecurity during the summer and winter school breaks, during which low-income children don't have access to the school meals. We came before you, well, it would just be Commissioner Rothstein last year, but the rest of you, for your knowledge, we had, during COVID, there were so many different food supports. And then as they are winding back, this was put into place last summer for the first time in many years, I believe. And so we were not sure last year if this would continue, but this grant did push out again most recently, and we are here before you today to ask for approval for this county match of $45,431. The state funding that would be provided would be $65,376. So I do want to ask Karen to give us a little bit of information about how that program looked this past year as they operated it, and a little bit more detail about the need for it here in Carroll.
Okay. Good morning. I'm Karen Bernard.
Morning.
The SNAP program, formerly known as food stamps, which is the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. During the normal year, a lot of households receive the benefits, and then they rely on the children receiving meals while they're in school. So the Summer SNAP program set up to issue an additional benefit during the summer months, which is June, July, and August, for each child between the age of 5 and 18, the school-age children. And then also they receive an additional benefit for the time that they're out of school in December, because they don't have access to the school program food that they receive. So it causes a tad bit of a hardship, and especially now that food is much more expensive than it has been in the past. So what we would look to do again is provide that extra benefit for the maximum of 1,108 children that live in the areas of Carroll County that are not closest to the food pantries and our soup kitchens, because we have a lot of resources, but the customers that live in the more rural areas and are not able to get to the pantries due to transportation issues. So their targeted residents are in the Marriottsville area, Kemar, Woodbine, New Windsor, Mount Airy, Hampstead, and Finksburg are the kids that we provided the benefit to last year, and we will do the same this year.
Are there any questions? When was the last time the locations have been adjusted that you just share with us?
The locations,
Yeah, the targeted locations.
they were I ran a report just Monday. Because constantly, people are constantly
Sure.
still applying for benefits. The state anticipated that the caseload would decrease after COVID and things started to move.
Right.
But I think during COVID, a lot of families realized that they are actually eligible for that assistance. So the caseload did not decrease as anticipated. So I try to, every week, every Monday, we have new reports and new customers that are eligible.
Yeah, I don't think, I would think the caseloads would decrease. I think locations may adjust, but also more towards Celine is what resources are we looking at in these communities to increase and serve where they don't need to go through SNAP?
And I think that's a great question. And I know
thank
we
you.
have our next presenter, which is Stephanie, who is here for a different reason with the Westminster Rescue Mission. We work very collaboratively with them, and they are doing great work at really pulling our food community together to do. They're hosting quarterly meetings regarding all the food resources and calling in all of those folks, and Stephanie can say this much better than I, and I don't want to put you on the carpet, but do you mind to step to the mic and just give an overview of kind of your food summit that you hosted and your quarterly meetings that you're having to talk about the redistribution process to all of our soup kitchens and pantries and targeting these needed areas?
Sure, absolutely. Good morning. I'm Stephanie Halley. I'm the CEO of Westminster Rescue Mission. So yes, I'll talk about something else in a minute, but for now, on the food program, we've been distributing food through our pantry on our campus here in Westminster for years and years. But what we've seen recently is the need, particularly in certain key areas where folks can't get to the pantries. But at the same time, there are lots of pantries, right? Some of them are smaller mom and pops, or in churches, in all sorts of places where people can access food. But it's hard to navigate, and it's hard to know where those are. And so part of what we've been doing in our kind of position in the community has been a couple of things. Number one, we are not only do we have a pantry on our campus, but we are now the largest redistributor of food in Carroll County. And so what we do is we access food through farms, through local restaurants and grocery stores, and through the Maryland Food Bank. We gather those resources and redistribute them out to a network of partners across the county. We also do outreaches in areas where there aren't food pantries or people can't get to them. But some of the work that Celine was just talking about is just bringing folks together like we do well in Carroll County in so many ways. It wasn't happening as much in the food community. And so we've started to bring folks together to share resources, to share food sometimes, to share volunteers, and to identify where are the gaps and how do we get those resources that we have here in the community and too often are going to waste. And instead of doing that, making sure that they're getting to the folks who need it. So that's exactly the work that the community has been doing. Thank you.
And that program is not just school children, it's also adults.
No, it's adults, yes. Many of them are seniors, oftentimes.
Yeah, we got a call, actually my wife, people don't call me, got a call Sunday night, and a local family that goes to 2 different food pantries totally ran out of food Easter Day, and were crying, and Rhonda went grocery shopping on Monday morning, and took some stuff from our church food pantry also. But
Right.
it's COVID showed us this need.
Exactly.
And it was
Incredible.
there. And I think some of the food pantries felt like, oh, we're going to do this for a year or two, and then we won't do it anymore. And they're getting busier and busier.
That's
and,
true.
And I'd love to see if there's a list of where they are, because, like you said about location, Manchester has as much out in the boonies as Hampstead, but very quickly you get to the Baltimore County and PA line. So it may be to serve Carroll County a little more close to the town itself, but it's a lot of need in a lot of areas, and it breaks your heart.
It does. I'd be absolutely happy. One of the things that we've done is pull together a resource list, an up-to-date resource list of where all of those options are. It changes, but I'd be happy to provide that for you.
Yeah, that would be great. There's efforts from the Boys and Girl Scouts building these small pantries of non-perishable goods. I know there's one down in Eldersburg behind the library. You know, you can't boil the ocean type of thing. You got to take it one step at a time. And I appreciate all the work. It's just that it continues to exist. Transportation is a big issue. You know, it's the number one issue with poverty is lack of transportation.
Indeed.
We have strong partnership with a nonprofit, and Celine knows this very well, Vehicles for Change, that provides vehicles for those in need at a very low cost, as long as they have a job and a residence and a way of paying for their insurance for the vehicle. And
It's a great program. We
it is
work
a great
with them
program.
too. Mhm.
And it should be used, it is used across the state, but again, I'm looking at Carroll Countyans and how we can serve Carroll Countyans with this program that much more.
Absolutely.
So,
And with this at hand in particular, you know, Karen, like you said, you know, the economy is not good, costs of food are going up, and that does hit those of working class and below especially hard. So I will say this before I ask this question. I'm in favor of doing this, but the paper before us references Operating Budget Resolution O-23.08, and I do not have a copy of that with me.
Ted, the budget
The budget to make the necessary fund transfer to make this happen.
it's
Again, I'm in favor of doing this. I don't have the resolution in front of me, and I'd like to see what that says before.
it's
I mean, it might just be me that doesn't have it. I don't know if anybody else has it, but
we have the one they sign. Normally, we don't put them in.
but because this specifically referenced I do want to read the resolution.
That's fine,
'cause
but
yeah.
we normally don't put them in the briefing book for whatever reason. They come at the last minute and usually just get in your signature
and-
folder. But
Right, but,
It's just,
but because it was explicitly referenced,
It's
I
just
just
the
did want to.
execution of the
yeah.
appropriation, really.
yeah, what this is
Well, I want to read it. I know what it does. I just want to.
apologize.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I just want to be.
We get to sign it later.
Okay.
And while you're taking a look at that, I did want to say we've also pulled together a countywide kind of leadership roundtable around the SNAP benefit reduction and some of the COVID pieces rolling back. So the directors of some of the nonprofits and some of the state agencies and their managers, Karen and Stephanie, are both engaged with that. And we decided to continue the meeting on a monthly basis until we can really understand what this impact is having on our community. So we're all on the same page. So that's been, we had our first meeting, and I think we generated at least 7 pages of minutes from that meeting, which was a lot of great ideas. So we are trying to stay on top of it and be proactive rather than reactive.
I understand that completely.
Okay. So with,
And if
yeah,
I
please.
can make one more comment, and sorry, this stuff is near and dear to my heart. The other thing, and I'm sure you guys are way ahead of me, but the other thing I'm concerned with, and like I say, I'm sure you guys, take care of it well. The household I was talking about has no driver's license and no vehicles, so transportation's a thing, but and I think that's why my wife's so much better than I am. They need to be treated with a proper respect throughout the whole process also, which can be touchy because, and I'll hear, well, I don't go to that food pantry anymore because they don't like how I get in line, or I don't have a car, they don't have a place for walkers. It's hard, and I'm sure you guys know all the ins and outs way better than I do, but thank you.
Well said. Okay. Anything else? Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the submission of the application and accept the award for FY24 Summer Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, SNAP, and approve Operating Budget Resolution O-23.08 to fund the required county match.
Second.
I got a motion, I got a second. Any further discussion? Seeing here none, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you so much for
Thank
all
you,
that you're
Commissioners.
doing.
Thank you.
Celine, you get to stay with us along with Deb, and we're going to start talking about now the block grant, correct?
Joining me now is Stephanie Haley. She already, thank you for your introduction earlier and sharing that information. I appreciate that. But as you know, Commissioners, the Westminster Rescue Mission wears many hats. And the food distribution and redistribution and the pantry is just one of their many services that they provide. So we are here today we're kind of doing a pre-approval with you folks before we start this process. If you are in agreement, we want to come to you today to talk about approval to develop an FY24 CDBG recovery housing application for Westminster Rescue Mission and hold a public hearing. Right now, CDBG has opened up earmarked funding that is specific to the acquisition of recovery housing that Westminster Rescue Mission would like to apply for. And they are requesting to submit us to submit this application on their behalf. And I would like Stephanie to give us a little bit of an overview. She has a presentation that she'd like to share with us about the why that this program is very important, near and dear to all of our hearts, because we've all experienced the struggles and challenges that this population experiences not being able to find appropriate housing with their child while they are going into recovery, and I'll let her speak to that.
I'm going to hand you each.
We have them in our books.
I'm sorry. Oh, you do? Okay, excellent. Oh, look at that.
Thank you, though.
Thank you very much, and it was great to be able to chat for a minute because now I don't have to say anything about the food program. But thank you very much for allowing me to come before you and to share just a little bit about the mission and the why for this particular project. So the Westminster Rescue Mission, for those of you who may not know, we've been around since 1968 in the community. We've been doing work in the areas of food security, addiction healing, and until recently, our thrift operation. But now we are very focused. We've gone through significant strategic planning and visioning and engaging with our partners in the community to define two very particular areas where we think we can have the greatest impact and have been having that impact. One is in food security and the other is in addiction healing. So our Addiction Healing Center, about 4 years ago, we became CARF accredited. CARF is the Commission on Accreditation of Rehabilitation Facilities. This is a seal of approval. It's something we go through every so many years for a level 3.1 treatment program. That treatment program is for men and has been for men for years. We have known that there's great need in the community for the services that not only that we provide, but for women and additional levels of care in addition to our 3.1 level of care. We're making significant we're planning and engaging right now in significant growth around the levels of care, but one of the gaps in service really in the county is really treatment, recovery services, both housing and treatment programs for women. We have, I'll say, just to speak to the need in Carroll County alone, so 67.2% of overdose deaths here in the county were individuals who accessed services in the county within a year of their death. 48% of those individuals accessed services, some type of services, within 30 days of their death. What that tells me is that, yes, we do have services, but there are gaps in those services. And one of the biggest gaps that we have is for women. So women come and they seek support, but there's nowhere for them to go. Recently, the Westminster Rescue Mission has operated a women's program on our campus. We met a couple of different struggles with those programs. Number one, first and foremost, was that the women who needed help had children, and we didn't have the facilities for those children. And the separation was too much to overcome in order to get them the treatment that they needed. So this program that we're talking about speaks directly to that. While I would love to do that on our campus in some ways, what we have also realized is that a number of those women and the kids that we would be serving have been in very difficult situations in terms of domestic violence, sex trafficking, and so it's difficult to be in an environment where there are men and to really focus on their recovery. And that is what we want, long-term recovery, right? And so a part of our vision as our organization is to acquire a property off of our campus that would not be a downtown type setting, but that would be one that would be, I've got farm in my roots, and for those of you who do, that being out in that type of setting, being in a place where there could be small animals, where there could be gardening, and where women and children could be working together and healing together while accessing the services that we already have, would just be incredibly healing, and I think would make an incredible impact on our community. So to have the opportunity to access funding outside of the county, this county has been very supportive of the mission in terms of our individual donors, in terms of our businesses supporting us, in terms of our churches supporting who we are and what we do. And here's an opportunity to get significant funding from outside of the county to be able to invest in something that is so needed. So I appreciate the opportunity. What I would love to do is invite each one of you to come visit. There have been a lot of changes and growth at our organization over the past few years, and I'd just love for you to be able to see the operation. So on the back of my presentation, you'll see my email and my phone number. Please email, call me, reach out. I'd love to give you a tour. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stephanie. I think I was out there 3 years ago. Before the women's dorm was complete. It's complete now.
Yes, it is.
How many?
And so that location now, although we are not housing women on there now,
Okay.
but what we're doing is we're increasing our levels of care. So we're not
Okay.
only going to be offering a 3.1 level,
Right.
but 3.3, 3.5, potentially up to 3.7, which will allow us to say yes to a lot more people, people who require additional supports than what we already provide.
And the thrift store is
We
gone.
have closed the thrift store. There wasn't as much need in the community. Lots of folks have filled that space, and we weren't able to make as great of an impact with that. It's now a gymnasium, so you can come
Is it really?
work out while you're out there, while you visit.
Are there any questions, comments?
Yes, depending on the location, the kids would go to school, could do extracurriculum
Absolutely.
activities.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
I was glad you mentioned the abusive relationships too. I've had wrestlers over the year that I pick up from such homes with a court order.
Right.
That in case I meet dad someplace else or something,
Right.
but the kids needed that opportunity.
Right.
So,
Absolutely.
So that'll be provided.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
And this is a dumb question. Your guys' donations, some of this stuff has tightened up a little bit. For instance, in the past, we talked about the Ag Center. We might buy a hog at the Ag Center, get it butchered, and we could bring the butchered meat there. Can we still?
Yes,
Can take
absolutely.
that still?
Absolutely, we
had heard
can.
you wouldn't take it anymore. So.
No, we will take butchered meat. We will take the
Yes,
butchered meat.
But I think you want it straight from the butcher. Yeah.
Yes, just because of food safety
Understandably
issues.
so. Yeah,
Yes.
good. Okay, sorry, I'm dumb.
You can buy a hog for us anytime at the Ag Center.
Rhonda and I will be calling you. With more
Great.
dumb questions.
Great. No, that would be great.
Commissioner Kyler, I don't think you have any dumb questions. In all sincerity, I don't.
No.
The those numbers and percentages are really daunting. 67+% from year to
48.
death, and then 48% within that 30 days.
Within 30 days. That's actually the highest in the state for
Terrifying.
that particular statistic. And so that's
just-
troubling.
yeah,
So
it
people
is.
are, the good news is people are trying to get help. People are trying to access services. The bad news is we're not doing our job well enough.
Well,
It's hard.
yeah, to take that part away about doing the job, it's terrifying. And I don't know if it's not doing it's not about you not doing your job, it's about us. And the resources allocated to do better than what is showing, and resources, time, people, and money. The RSS, the Saris houses that are out there and other facilities. There's a lot of them. Navigating from one to the other's challenged. Like I said, the number one reason for poverty, dealing with transportation, and which can cause to a whole lot of other things that could lead to addiction because of the dimness. It's terrifying. Just looking at that. I mean, that's what caught me really pretty hard. We got to do something about it.
We do.
And I don't know what the answers are, but I appreciate the support with Springboard, with the Boys and Girls Club, with Penmar and all the others, the ARC. But we're missing something. We got to figure out what we're missing.
Well, and I think a tough thing to figure out. How do you convince them that they need the constant help?
Yeah.
I banter, I won't say joke, with some. As I'm driving them to circuit court, they want help. They're scared. They're whatever. A week before that, they were cocky about it. I don't need your help.
Right.
How do you bridge that gap? And because if they don't want the help, you can't force it.
Right. No, it's true. And I think the challenge is, when somebody doesn't want the help, quite honestly, in my experience, it's pretty tough to give it to them.
Sure.
But I think where we have opportunity is the number of people who do want help, but who aren't getting the help that they need. And myself, I'm a woman in recovery over 18 years, and it's important that when someone is ready, that we are there and the door is wide open and we get them the right support for them, which is different from person to person, but having those options and supports and partnerships within our community to make those connections is important.
And that's important because, like you're saying, when they do recognize they need it, you've got to be available.
You've got to be ready.
If you don't take it, it's going to go away.
Exactly.
That's well said on all parts. It's a community, and you're not an island. We talk about recovery. You can say I'm in recovery dealing with mental illness, and until I was ready, I wasn't going to do anything.
Right.
Feeling a heck of a lot better now,
Right.
especially for my family. It is that we need to open up and say, listen, you're not an island. There's others around you. This is a community. Let's figure this out. And then Celine and others keep beating us down for more resources. You may not get them right away, but you got to keep saying, this is what we need, and here's the risk in not doing it. This one's relatively easy because the county match is 0, which we always like.
Isn't that great?
Always like to use
That's a good, easy first ask for me.
Using other people's money is always a good thing. So
It is.
but those percentages are just horrible. So
I think one of the nice things that you mentioned, though, today is the fact that you're looking at a property that's got open space.
Yes.
Because that's so important, I think, for people when you've got the ability to get outside in nature and around, your surroundings are different. You're not confined around concrete and lights and all the other potential tensions in life. I'm just out of curiosity, what kind of, I don't want to know specifics completely, but what size type of property are you looking at, just out of curiosity?
So we've looked at some. We've been looking, but I don't have the place to purchase yet. We tried. But we're looking for a really like a farm, right? A small farmette that, with as much property as we can handle. But really just a an old farmhouse that can be, for multifamily use. That we can just have, multiple families. So 8-bedroom, it all depends on the setup of the of the property, but.
Would there ever, and I'm jumping the gun here a little bit, would there ever be the opportunity, maybe depending on the size of the property, to then maybe continue and add on down the road. I mean, I know, like I said, I'm getting
Absolutely.
ahead of you here a little bit, but
No, I'm right there with you. Yes, yes, I think, absolutely, absolutely.
and I think it should go without saying, but I'll just say it. I think it's great that it's an opportunity both for women in need in this regard, but also including the kids, because that's a huge component. I mean, that's tough when you're separating people, or it's a challenge of when they're seeing each other and all that. So I think that's a wonderful opportunity. And I think it's very, very nice to see for Carroll County and the people as a whole.
Right. We'll try hard.
Yep. Okay. Anyone else? Motion?
Motion to approve the development of the FY24 CDBG application and schedule the required public hearing.
Second.
I got a motion, I got a second. I'm getting used to looking back and forth. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Guys.
Thank you very much,
Thank
gentlemen.
you.
God bless you for what you do.
I want to point out the obvious to my fellow commissioners. We have a daunting number of items to get to,
Yeah.
so I'm going to do my best to be judicious. I think we probably should give it a shot, try to get to 11,
Commissioner Guerin, that's a fantastic point.
because we
Okay.
do have budget this afternoon, and I still think it's a very important issue for us to spend as much time on that as possible.
Agreed.
Approval for grant application, acceptance of award. Do I have a motion?
That works for me.
I'm prepared.
Yep, he's ready.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
We will be quick for you, but give you enough information for you to feel comfortable with the applications that we're looking to submit. As Commissioner Rothstein said, we're here to request your approval for a grant application and acceptance of award to go after design funding from the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation for a future project in the town of New Windsor. So as part of our MPDS permit requirements, we need to look to treat currently untreated impervious area. In downtown New Windsor, there is no stormwater management for much of the older portion of the town. So we have been working with the town to look at areas and have found a site adjacent to their public works depot area, where we're currently working on conceptual plans for a stormwater wetland. So we've had success in the past gaining funding from NIFWIF for design funds, so we're here to ask your approval to go after $75,000 to take our conceptual plans to final design plans.
And putting the county match of $30,000 would be enough to go after the $75,000?
So the $30,000 is what we have paid so far to a consultant for the concept plans. So we're hoping that the $75,000 from the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation will take those plans to the finish line.
Okay.
Motion to approve the submittal of the grant application and acceptance of award to the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation Small Watershed Grants Planning and Technical Assistance Program for the New Windsor Wetland Construction Plans. Yes.
Second.
I have a motion, I have a second. Any discussion on this? Seeing here none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, next is requesting a grant application acceptance of award for Roberts Field restoration construction.
So this is another opportunity to seek funding from the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation from their Small Watershed Grants Implementation Program. The Bureau has been working on a design with the town of Hampstead for the Roberts Field Stormwater Management Facility, and NIFWIF did provide funding through the Technical Assistance Grant Program. They contributed $50,000 to the design for this facility, so we thought this would be a great opportunity to go back to them to receive construction funding or a portion of that for this project. So while there is still a big gap from what we're hoping to get from grant funding, we are looking at other avenues for grant funding to help cover the cost of this project. So
What other avenues?
we have The Department of Natural Resources typically in the fall of the year opens up a grant program that's the Chesapeake and Atlantic Coastal Bays Trust Fund. We can go after funding through that program. There is minimal county match required, but we have had success in gaining funding from them in the past. We've also submitted an application to the Maryland Water Quality Foundation for funding. Unfortunately, while we ranked high in our recent application for this project, their priorities shifted. So stormwater was not a priority this round of funding. They kind of reverted back to septic and wastewater treatment plant improvement projects.
Is Hampstead putting any money into this?
So through the MOU that we have with the municipalities as part of the MPDS permit, they have a 20% contribution for the project, but that's all part of the town-county agreement. So all that funding is through our bureau.
Okay. Okay.
So this is funding that we will need to allocate going forward. This isn't already in the current fiscal year budget.
So we have a CIP for these types of projects, and we typically are allocated $3.3 million each year. So this is factored into our plan moving forward. So that money is already there and taken into consideration as
Gotcha.
we develop our CIP. So
Thank you very much.
yeah, no problem.
I just wanted to make sure we weren't having to pull it out of nowhere right now.
No.
Thank you very much for that.
Any other questions or comments?
So the 3 million you're mentioning, it's already been appropriated as part of the CIP, or?
As
difference.
part of our request for CIP from 24 to 29, I think. Yes, what is looked at for resource management is approximately $3.3 million to support our MPDS program.
As long as we don't touch it, move it, it's in there.
So, yeah, but please
That's why
keep
you
in
said, I
mind
haven't
that
seen it yet, yes.
MPDS is a compliance program. So if we do not meet the, regulations set forth in our permit, the county could face a shortfall, and there are
Which is why we shouldn't touch it.
Fairly dire
yes,
consequences.
yeah. So we will be before you, I believe, next week to go over the MPDS program and the permit and all the details that are part of it.
We actually might be sliding you to the week after.
Okay. Eventually.
Sorry, yeah.
It's okay.
That's right. We've pushed you down a little bit further, so now it's just be a little bit more. So, are there any questions? I'm looking at the MPDES right now as far as the capital. And you're saying this is in the 24 to 20. It's not been allocated for 23.
Oh, it is. It's every year, yeah.
This project, was it,
Oh.
and I think it goes back to Commissioner Garen's question, was the project funding in the CIP allocated in FY23, or is this something that we are to discuss in FY24's CIP?
I'd say neither.
Okay.
This is an ongoing project. We
Okay.
budget money every year. Your plan as it exists,
Yes is an ongoing project, not
okay.
this specific.
Okay.
right. It's in your plan for all years, and best we know continues on forever, for any time frame we're planning on. When these specific projects come to you, they are being planned within the funding that is available or going to be available. So, and I don't know the specifics on this, how the timing matches up to the money. But all these projects, unless you hear otherwise, are budgeted for in a bigger way.
And you attempt to get more grants so you can do more with the money.
Exactly. Since 2009, We've brought in over $17.5 million to support the MPDS program. So we have had great luck with grants, and we're going to keep going after additional funds to support the program.
And to Commissioner Kyler's point, we budget in a way that we believe will allow us to meet our obligations. When we get grants, that gives us more room. Maybe someday we'll have so much room we can reduce how much funding we're doing, but we're not there.
Okay. Comfort level?
Yeah.
Okay.
As
Okay.
long as it's planned.
Is there a,
Motion to approve the submittal of the grant application and acceptance of award to the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation Small Watershed Grants Implementation Program for the Roberts Field Restoration Project.
Second.
I got a motion, I got a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you, ladies.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Okay. Val, why don't you come on up and let's talk about what we started to talk about, I think, last week, and that's now the adoption of the 2022 Carroll County Hazard Mitigation Plan.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
That is correct, Commissioner Rothstein. We are here to continue our discussion about the 2022 Carroll County Hazard Mitigation Plan. I have with me Assistant Manager Jacob Hill. He was definitely instrumental in getting this finished up and in front of FEMA and MDEM and eventually all of the board. So we are here this morning to ask you to adopt the plan. We certainly stand ready with any, try to answer any questions that you may have thought of in between, last week and this week. But the reason that we're here is just the formalize the adoption of the plan. So that is our request this morning.
You sold me last week.
Thank you, Commissioner.
And you get to make the motion.
Are we ready?
Yeah, if you want to.
I move the Board of Commissioners formally adopt the 2022 Carroll County Hazard Mitigation Plan.
Second.
I have a motion, I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioners.
Talk to us about emergency responder radio communication enhancement system. All
Do you want
right.
to switch seats with you?
I'm good.
Good morning.
Commissioners.
Good morning.
The Office of Procurement, in cooperation with the Department of Public Safety, requests your approval to award Hankey's Radio Incorporated, a single-source vendor, to provide an emergency responder two-way radio communication enhancement system at the Carroll County Maintenance Center in the amount of $35,430. This cost includes the design, the equipment, installation, and testing. This amount has been approved in the FY23 budget, and no additional funds should be required. And I'll let Valerie explain the project.
Okay, thank you, Maureen. Commissioners, this is a project, late last year, the Board of Public Works, specifically Facilities and Roads, reported an issue with the radio signal coverage in the Old Meadow Branch Maintenance Center facility. So in response to that report, we had the facility professionally evaluated, and it did show, the results did show insufficient radio coverage in the building. We had our radio, it's that kind of day today. We had it professionally evaluated by Hankey's Radio. They are our radio repair and maintenance vendor. That's the word that I wanted. And they had provided us with the proposal. It was developed in coordination with their engineering staff. So the recommended means to mitigate those radio signal deficiencies was the installation of a bidirectional amplifier or distributed antenna system, which is a BDA. That's normally how it's referred to. One thing, a couple things that I wanted to mention. The age of the current system that's there is more than 20 years. We don't, it's past institutional knowledge exactly when it was installed, but it is definitely more than 20 years old. It has served us well for quite a long time. So we should be expected that eventually these things do need to be replaced. We are utilizing budgeted funds for this, but just to be clear, this was not a budgeted item, but due to cost avoidance with some other items in our budget, we are able to utilize budgeted the fiscal year 23 funding to accomplish this objective. So we don't need to ask for any additional funding to accomplish it.
Okay. And you said it was competitively bid, correct?
No, this is a single source vendor.
Oh, it is single source. I
We have-
apologize.
Hankey's, we actually do have a term contract with Hankey's. So we could use that, but they, again, we're kind of tied in with them because they have put so much equipment in. They're the experts on how it's handled.
Right. Specifically they are the Motorola vendor and distributor there's only one for our area. So we work with them as a single source to make sure that everything works together within the system,
I mean,
the radio
are
system.
they a VAR or are they?
I'm sorry?
Are they a VAR, a reseller for Motorola?
They are.
I think they're an authorized dealer.
They are an authorized
from Motorola
distributor.
for
Yes.
maintenance and repair and things like that.
Okay, so of our authorized reseller, and there's different levels, and that's what
And
it
they've
sounds.
been around a long time.
Yes, very long.
Okay.
Very long.
Okay.
We have a very long and good relationship with Hankey's.
Got it.
Motion to approve awarding the emergency responder two-way radio communications enhancement system to Hankey's Radio Incorporated in the amount of $35,430.
Second.
I have a motion, I have a second. Any discussion on this? Seeing here none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Thank you, Commissioners.
thank you
Thank you.
very much. Okay, Maureen, you get to stay, and we're going to talk about some lights over at the Farm Museum. So who wants to join you? Are you going to be flying solo, are you? I hope not.
Everybody bailed on you.
I know. It's like they ran the other way.
They're coming.
Okay.
It's been something I said.
Okay, go for it.
The Office of
Just
Procurement.
trust.
Excuse me?
Trust.
Yeah, that's true. That's the way I'll look at it. The Office of Procurement, in conjunction with the Bureau of Building Construction, request your approval to award a contract to C.N. Robinson, an approved term contractor, for the purchase of 11 light poles and fixtures for the Carroll County Farm Museum in the amount of $39,300. And this amount is also approved within the budget. So I will let either Dave or Eric take over.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
This project will bring much-needed lighting to the area from the parking lot all the way to the wedding barn. It will stretch along the interior blacktop path from the parking lot to the wedding barn. Currently, there is no lighting in that area. So these 11 lights will be spaced from the parking lot to the wedding barn. It'll also improve the safety and security of the various users and groups, but will also improve the aesthetical appeal of the Farm Museum during yearly events. With the installation of the lights, the Farm Museum will now be able to have events in the fall and winter seasons as well due to the extra lighting. The poles will also have outlets installed on them for better functionality for yearly lights. We will be purchasing the lights and poles under a term contract. Then we will be reaching out to contractors to get quotes for installation. Currently, the estimated lead time is 10 to 12 weeks for delivery. Do you have any questions?
Okay, nope, that last part answered that question. So, as far as the expectation of when. So, okay. Any questions on this? Is there a motion?
Motion to award the contract for the Carroll County Farm Museum lighting to C.N. Robinson in the amount of $39,300.
Second.
I got a motion, I got a second. Any discussion? Seeing here none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Thank you,
Karen.
Commissioners.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Maureen, that was the easy button, number 2 or 3. Let's see if we can keep this up. And let's talk about Legal Services Bond Counsel.
Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Office of Procurement, in cooperation with the Department of the Comptroller, request your approval to contract with McKinnon, Shelton, and Henn LLP for legal services. MS&H is offering an annual fixed price of $33,000 for a new money bond or bond anticipation note issues. Other legal services will be charged at $250 an hour for attorney and $175 an hour for paraprofessionals. This contract will be made through a Baltimore County government contract that was competitively bid. And again, this cost is within the budget and no additional funds should be required. And then Jenny can tell you about the project itself.
Sure. Just to give you a little background, Commissioners, when we issue tax-exempt bonds, we have a lot of legal tax laws that we have to follow. So basically, this bond counsel assists us when we are issuing our tax-exempt bonds and make sure that we stay in compliance with the IRS laws. They give us legal advice, make sure the projects that we are funding with bonds are eligible to have that bond funding on and can remain bond tax exempt and provide public purpose. And they prepare all the legal documents when we file. We have a binder that's really thick. And in addition, they're available all year long if we have any questions on refundings or any tax laws regarding debt.
Have we used them before?
I've been here almost 22 years, and we've used them every year that I've been here.
So you're pretty comfortable in this?
I am comfortable with them.
Okay.
So they don't do a retainer and you draw against it, they just bill you?
Yes, they bill us, and it's part of the bond issuance budget that we have. Yep.
Motion? I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
please. Nope. Have at it.
Oh, you got the motion? You want me to get the motion?
You got it.
I'll get the motion. Motion to approve contracting with McKinnon, Shelton, and Henn LLP for legal services related to bond counsel for the Department of the Comptroller.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Seeing here none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now let's talk about independent financial auditing services.
Okay, we are requesting your award for the contract to provide independent financial auditing services to Clifton Larson Allen. The county requested proposals from vendors capable and interested in performing this service. A committee was formed to evaluate both the technical and financial proposals submitted. And Clifton Larson Allen scored highest overall. This contract has the potential to be renewed through June 30th of 2027, and the cost is based on an hourly rate per position, and funds have been approved in the FY24 budget.
As you see, we did receive 3 proposals. None of those are the current or the prior auditors. From what I'm understanding, they are not doing government accounting or auditing anymore. I think Grant scared them away. No. So we are required to have an annual audit, and that's maintaining and staying with GASB, our generally government accounting standards board. So the audit is making sure that our ACFR, our annual comprehensive financial report, meets those standards and is free from material misstatements. In addition to that ACFR, we are required to file a uniform financial report with the state to make sure we're uniformly reporting our financials, as well as 911 expenditures with the state of Maryland. And then also the single audit, which is a federal audit. It's a grant for the federal government of all of our federal expenditures for grants. And then we also have an IT audit. So all of this is included in our audit. Clifton Larson Allen actually had our award. We've had them prior to this last audit firm 7 years ago. So I'm very comfortable with them.
You're right. There's a lot of accounting services that are moving away from that service specifically, auditing.
So that's why they didn't furnish a proposal, the last one?
From what I had been kind of led to is they are getting out of government audit services.
You talking about Cone Resnick?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so too. So,
Yeah.
Okay.
Motion to approve the award of a contract for independent financial auditing services to Clifton Larson Allen.
Second.
I got a motion, I have a second. Any discussion on this one? Seeing here none, all in favor?
Aye.
Let's talk about financial advisor services.
We keep saying good morning to you with every new issue before us.
Okay, we are here to request your approval to contract with Davenport and Company LLC for financial advisor services for general obligation bonds at an annual cost of $63,328.13. This contract will be made through a Howard County government contract that was competitively bid. And again, the cost is in the project budget and no additional funds should be required. And Jenny can tell you more about what this is for.
Sure. So what do the financial advisors do? They assist us with bond sales as well. They advise us on the markets, where the bond markets are, give us advice on if there's refunding, meaning we could go out and get a better interest rate on bonds. And these are the bonds that fund our major capital projects, schools, bridges, roads, etc. The financial advisor help us to monitor the entire portfolio of the debt for any future savings.
In addition to this, they work to prepare us for our bond rating.
Correct. They help a lot with that.
So, yeah, because that's not what you wrote, but I mean, that's a large portion
Yes.
of their support and guidance. So I'll move the Board of Commissioners approve contracting with Davenport and Company LLP for financial advisor services at a cost of $63,300 and
Yeah, that's.
what is it?
Oh, it's misprinted. It's up
328
top.
up.
It's $63,328.13.
Okay, I apologize. $63,328.13 for the Department of the Comptroller.
Second.
I got a motion in a couple of seconds. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Write-off of uncollectible personal property tax accounts.
You just can't get rid of me this morning.
Take us home.
Okay. One more, I promise. So Jim Ammon's here from the county attorney office with me. We are requesting the approval to write off 6 accounts with outstanding business personal property taxes from 2016 to 2020, totaling $58,356.07. All these businesses have been dissolved and their assets have been liquidated. We have pursued, or I should say, the county attorney's office has pursued legal judgments to their fullest extent and proved unsuccessful. Then their recommendation is to write them off. Much of the remaining taxes are a result of estimated doubled assessments, which we can go into detail if you would like more information on that, or unfiled tax returns. The state, if they don't file a tax return, the state automatically puts a assessment amount if they haven't closed their businesses properly. Additionally, several of the account balances remain after we've accepted any bankruptcy settlement offers. As legal avenues for collection, we've exhausted all of those, so we're asking for your approval to write these open balances off.
So essentially, we've got some people who didn't pay their taxes. It's pretty easy to start an LLC and start over again. So do we have any safeguards or mechanisms within the county to ensure that some of these same individuals, whether for whatever reason things didn't work out for them, but they're not able to just come back again? And
Well, Commissioner, when we go to court, we get a judgment against these companies for the amount of taxes owed. And if they don't pay that judgment, then we get a lien. And that lien is open for 12 years. So if that person wants to reopen a new LLC within that 12 years, then the county would know. And then we would have another avenue to pursue collection of that original amount.
All right, thank you. I didn't realize that was a 12-year penalty, if you will. So that's appreciate
Yes,
that.
the judgment's open for 12 years.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was the exact question I was going to have is, change your name and, type of thing with these LLCs. So, and that goes with LLC, S Corp, or any entity that they.
That's correct.
Okay. Okay. No, thanks.
How does this amount compare to past periods of time?
I'm going to defer
I
to
thought maybe
my...
it would be more, but
Actually, I think Debbie, come on. She's our collection. This is Debbie Barrett.
All
She's
right.
our collections
Good morning.
specialist.
I believe last time we did it, we have not done it since COVID. During COVID, we stopped sending
Right.
past dues, final notices. So this is kind of a catch-up. These have been sitting there for quite a while. And it brings us up, I believe, to 2020.
yes.
Right.
So, it's pretty good. We've had some success here lately. We've been sending a lot out, and we've been starting to get them. So, and I believe last time we did it, it was more like $75,000. And we usually, in the past, we have done them once a year, and we haven't done it for quite a few years now. So, the 58's not too bad compared to other years.
For this period of time, I thought it would be more than that. I'm glad it isn't.
Yeah, it's not, it isn't awful, and it's just 6 accounts, so it's really, and a lot of it, as Jenny stated, is estimated assessments. The state does that to get their attention. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. In this case, they closed up, they just don't care. So, we don't have, and we cannot do anything with it other than this without the state's instruction. So our only avenue is to write them off, to get them off the books.
Okay.
And the revenue was never recognized, so this is a paperwork shuffle to clean it up.
Exactly.
Correct.
Okay.
Motion to approve the write-off request and authorize for the comptroller to execute the required forms.
Second.
I have a motion. I have a second. Any discussion on this? Seeing here none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Chris, do we have anyone on the line? Do we have Chris on the line?
No, sir.
Okay. Do we have anything for open admin?
Just the minutes, the closed minutes.
Okay. From any of us? Okay, what I need you to review and then approve is the April 6th, 2023 closed minutes for land acquisition.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I got a motion, I think a couple of seconds. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Agendas. Come on up, Miss Wanda.
Okay. Oh.
We have April 17th, so next week. At 4:30 p.m., Commissioner Gordon will be attending the Magic's new Autonomous Robotics Innovation Center here in Westminster. And then on Tuesday,
We now have the Lieutenant Governor to add.
oh, I apologize, that's correct. We have, thank you, Lieutenant Governor Miller along with Secretary Woods from MDVA, 9:30 to 10:30 over at American Legion Post 31. You can say roundtable discussion. Okay, veterans roundtable discussion. Have we determined who is participating from us? I'll be there.
I'll be in attendance as well.
I'll be there.
I'm pretty sure I'm going to double check my schedule, but I think I should be able to make it.
Okay, if Commissioner Vigliotti is done with tea time, he'll also attend. Right now, we have 3 with a tentative of 4, and just we'll confirm that, but thank you. Tuesday, 9 a.m., Commissioner Gordon is participating in the Planning and Zoning Commission down in the Reagan Room. On that afternoon, we are scheduled for work session, open session, work session for our budget at 1 p.m. And then advisory meeting, Commissioner Gordon is scheduled to attend,
And me.
and Commissioner Kyler. At 5 p.m., Commissioner Kyler will be attending the Carroll Community College Board of Trustees meeting. And then there will be a Board of Education Town Hall meeting conducted by Superintendent McCabe, and Commissioners Gordon and Kyler will be in attendance over at Winters Mill High School.
And I will make sure she knows I'm going to be late because of the community college, but I definitely want to get there.
And I would expect she's listening right now, so Commissioner Kyler will be late. Okay, at 7 p.m., Commissioner Guerin.
That is me.
Okay, will be participating in the ESAC, the Emergency Services Advisory Council, over at the Training Center here in Westminster. On Thursday, we go into open at 9. We'll talk about purchasing washers and dryers. I take it's over to the detention center with the sheriff, the sheriff's office. We will submit FY24 DHCD, the Housing Homelessness Solutions Program grant, application and acceptance of that award from DCS. Submit application for the Interagency Family Preservation Services grant for FY24-28 with the intent of accepting the award as well. Approval to submit applications for the Promoting Safe and Stable Families grant, again with Ms. Steckel, and then 2023 hot mix asphalt paving, number 2. DPW will come in front of us and share with us, I take it, the scheduling of the roads that are going to be worked on. Term contract, use pavement condition surveys for the pavement management program. Again, DPW will be in front of us. Introduction and possible decision on zoning waiver for Manchester's annexation number 41, Patapsco 91 LLC. And that'll be from plans. And then the county NPDES program and our newly issued permit.
They want to do that overview with the board to explain the program and the permit, but we're probably going to almost assuredly move that to the following week in order to leave time for that appeal, the procurement appeal that the board is going to hear.
So we'll figure that out. I appreciate that. Then on Friday, you're going to the BMC?
No.
Okay.
Typo. That's
So I
typo.
thought. The Baltimore Metropolitan Council Board, I'll be attending, and also Ms. Wyndham will be attending as well. On Saturday, there's an open house over at the Hampstead Fire Company. It's really a ribbon cutting, not just an open house, isn't it, Commissioner Kyler?
I'm sorry.
The Hampstead that's right, Hampstead Fire. It's a ribbon cutting. It's an open house, but they're completing the project.
Yeah, it's an open house for their first phase
Right.
completion.
So,
And I'm pretty sure Senator West and Delegate Stanko will be there.
yeah, and I'm going to try and get up there as well. And then that afternoon, the Westminster Fire Department's 200th anniversary. You've got Commissioner Gordon, Kyler, Vigliotti, and I attending that. And I'll have the podcast on the 23rd. Monday, 24th, nothing scheduled. Tuesday, 25th. It is the intent at 10, not 10 p.m.
Don't
I
think
sure
10
hope
p.m.
not.
I hope not. I'll be in
But
bed.
I would expect it's 10 a.m. that we, the Board of County Commissioners, will release the FY24 proposed budget. At Wednesday, April 26, 8 a.m., Secretary of Agriculture, Secretary Addix will be over at the Ag Center. And right now we got Commissioner Gordon, Kyler, and myself attending. There'll be a Board of Education meeting that afternoon, 5 p.m. And somebody will be there. Let's just put a TBD for now. Commissioner Gordon will be participating in the virtual Planning and Zoning Commission work session. And then at 6:30 p.m., there's a Veterans Appreciation dinner, not diner, with the Freedom District Lions Club down in American Legion Hall in Sykesville. Commissioner Kyler and I will be attending, and Commissioner Guerin, just let me know if you
Okay,
want
thank
to
you.
also. It's just a great opportunity to say thank you to veterans. Thursday, we have open session at 9:15. Public hearing to support the Westminster Rescue Missions application for recovery housing, for FY24 recovery housing. We'll talk about the Manchester annexation if necessary, if a decision had not been made the week before. Public safety server infrastructure replacement from IT. Then we'll go into closed for legal. Friday, Saturday with nothing scheduled. Commissioner Vigliotti has the podcast on April 30th. Sunday, April 30th. Wanda, did I do okay? Okay. Let's see. I need a motion to go into recess, into closed.
We're going to go into close for public safety.
We're going to go into closed for public safety.
Yes.
And then, once we're done with closed for public safety, we will go into what?
You have a budget session
You.
at 11:15. Is that it?
Well, that ain't going to happen.
Well,
So,
at 1.
so we'll go into recess till 1 p.m. and reconvene at 1 p.m. for budget, if that's okay with everybody. Okay,
So you need 2 motions.
so I need a motion to go into closed for public safety.
So moved.
Second.
I got a motion in a couple seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
And then a motion to go after closed into recess and reconvene at 1 p.m. for budget work session.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.